And we are live. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hi.
Hey,
Hey.
I like your mask.
Oh, thanks, girl. I got one for you when I see you next time. No, for real.
Okay, good. Yeah, I want
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Got you.
So we're going to keep this episode short, but I think it's a really important and special episode because I really want to talk to you about what's happening. I mean, I think everybody, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure that that's a lot, everybody's aware of the recent events with Jacob Blake and the protesters being
Yeah.
murdered, and the marches for Taylor ongoing, and just
Mhm.
all the racial unrest that's happening on top of that. We have the RNC, and last week the Democratic National Convention happened. And you are actually there on location, so I just kind of want to talk to you about what's happening there in Washington, D.C.
So today we attended before the march. I don't know if some of you guys got a chance to see because it was streamed live. All the speeches. So a lot of people are talking about about Martin Luther King Jr.'s son who spoke and his granddaughter who was adorable. But we were there in support of Breonna Taylor's family. Her mom, Tamika Palmer, spoke briefly. Unfortunately, the schedule was just so full that a lot of the speeches towards the end got cut down a lot. So it was an amazing experience for me being able to, be behind the speakers on the steps, look out and see all the people that came out. Like with everything going on, I'll be honest, I was back and forth with regard to whether or not I could and should come, and literally did not buy my ticket until the day that I came. So I mean, I got late. I got in late last night, and I'm leaving first thing in the morning tomorrow at 6 a.m. So, um, you just have to take additional precautions with everything going on. But I just thought this is just going to be such a historical moment, and I just had to take the opportunity to come. I mean, I'm sure they'll have another one next year, or whatever. But I mean, we just don't know. And right now, just being so heavily involved with just all my activism and just wanting to see change and not just see it, but like do what I can to ensure that I, contribute to affecting real change. So
Right.
I just decided like I had to be here. So it was amazing. The march took place. Luckily, the rain held up. It's actually sprinkling right now. So I'm about to head back inside. It's going to be a little bit loud, but it's legit raining right now. But yeah, I don't even know the number. It's like I'm sure if we Google it, it's probably gonna be a few thousand, I guess. I don't know, but it was packed. Yeah, I'll definitely post some videos and pictures later, so you can see like from my perspective like what I was seeing and what was going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, and obviously this was planned, um, you know, far in advance. But what is the feeling like now with just like the recent events with Jacob Blake, and then even hearing about the protesters who were killed while they were protesting police brutality? Have you felt like, have you heard or seen anything, people talking about it, or seen a change in the way that people are, you know, interacting or protesting?
So I don't see a change. The people that I'm most closely, I guess, like involved with or communicate with, we've all been on the same wavelength. So seeing something like that, like I watch the video over and over and over again to make sure that I'm not getting desensitized to it. Um, I kind of am surprised that people are so stunned by what happened to Mr. Blake. Like, it's like, y'all really surprised about that? That's how I feel. So
Right.
I think that, this is another example of how important it is to film the police, film all these incidences, because I really feel like while part of it is the fact that, Breonna Taylor is a Black female, I also think that part of the thing that's missing from her story, which is why it didn't get as much traction early on, is the fact that there's no video.
Right.
So I tried to do the post about just okay, we have a vivid imagination. We all do. So just like close your eyes and just imagine this. Like, now do you have a video? Is that good enough? But this is another example of how like when you see it, like it just evokes additional emotion. So I'm glad that people are still speaking out. I'm glad that people are getting more and more frustrated. I think that people's cups runneth over at different times. Everyone has a different size cup, and then sometimes your cup runneth over, and then you got an empty cup, and then it has to runneth over again. And so I think that's happening at different intervals. And unfortunately, if your cup hasn't runneth over with this incident, it will run us over soon, because this is going to happen. It's going to keep happening until we see change, until people really realize that there's a difference. Because they're talking about, this killer in such a polite way, like, oh, he was cleaning up the graffiti the day before. Bro, I don't care if he donated $1 billion to the hungry. Like, I don't care. He killed people. We know that. Like, move along. Let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? So
I was stunned when I heard the I think it was the chief of police, the way that he was describing the incident. He first kind of laid blame on the victims by saying they shouldn't have been out past curfew, and then saying that the murderer was just using his weapon to resolve an issue, kind of pushing towards the self-defense narrative. And so, I mean, it's just crazy.
I didn't even hear that, and that's absurd. I couldn't even watch that video, to be honest with you, because just the comment on the post that I originally saw it on, I was like, yeah, that's not something I'm gonna entertain. Like, I'm just not gonna do it, because we don't care what they were doing. We don't, come on, like, y'all gotta stop. So if people are still searching for that types of information, then go ahead and put your little white KKK hat on and just roll with what you really are. How about that?
Exactly. I want to talk again about the march that this is, if I'm not mistaken, happening on the anniversary of when Dr. Martin Luther King gave his "I Have a Dream," right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Wow. So that's why I thought it was so powerful. This is the 65th anniversary. I just thought it was going to be like really, really powerful. And, I do hope that they continue to do it. These are so important, just to show us all coming together for, a common goal, and just being so unified and working together. I mean, there, was a little bit of, I don't want to say drama, but just a little rift, because so many people are so impacted by what's going on that there's a lot of passion. So everyone wants their opportunity to say, what their experience was and what, they want to share with the world. And there are just so many stories, so many platforms that are built, that I hope that we can eventually put a stop, and then it's just a historical type thing. Like, we need to move away from this. Like, we need to stop having so many families that can speak out to situations like this. It's absurd.
Yeah. And then, with all the events last week with BreonnaCon, and kind of really trying to bring more awareness to what's happening there, is there, on the legal side, any movement there? Are we thinking that we're moving closer to an arrest?
So there is movement, and there are a lot of people on, kind of choose my words wisely, there are certain people that want to do what we see happen often, where it's, basically them trying to search for explanation or justification for why someone that is completely innocent was, the killing was justified, or, the situation surrounding the killing was justified. But ultimately, it's a smear campaign. And to me, it just shows that they'd rather put the effort into supporting what, like, the F-ups that police do and have, than to do a proper investigation to eliminate these types of situations in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm saying that because there was an article that was released while I was in Kentucky, and it was basically an attempt to try to smear her name, and it's just absurd, because there's information that is known, right? And then there's a basically they're under order to keep certain information confidential. They can't disclose certain things. Mm-hmm. So then when you have the other side trying to, like, leak little information here and there, piecemeal stories, so that people can create this other, dialogue to have something to talk about, it's just frustrating, because it's like, why didn't y'all do this investigation before you signed this BS warrant that resulted in the death of an innocent person? Why not do that? You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's just frustrating, and that's the focus even still with everything going on. So my, I guess, I'm optimistic, but my optimism lies with the federal investigation that's going on. So that's going to take a while still, because that investigation is thorough and they're focused on the right things. Right. So that's what I'm hopeful for personally.
Okay. Right.
And I do want to say one thing too, because there's a lot of negativity floating around, and someone that is watching this or sees this may have heard of it, or may even feel this way. And there's just been a lot of negativity with regard to the whole BreonnaCon event, and it's frustrating, because first of all, Until Freedom is an amazing organization. to see their level of professionalism, the amount of time, energy, effort, and just expertise and wisdom that goes into planning the things they plan. They literally have given up their entire lives at home and moved to Kentucky for just basically,
Wow.
I thought it was going to be for a month, but right now it's just until, they're there to be on the ground locally to try to put some stuff together. So the fact that they're able to put together events that allow people to celebrate, mourn, and talk about, okay, how do we do this? Like, miss me with all of that. So people were talking a lot of smack about the name and how it's disrespectful. And, there was one event that was called a barbecue, and Brianna's family is involved in every aspect of this. So if they're not offended and they're appreciative of it, they support it, they love it, why does anyone else have any right to say anything negative? And I'm just so sick of trolls and just people just flipping things and turning them into negativity when we're trying to affect real change and not just sit behind our computers and talk mess. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, it was just so nice to see her family. And every time I've been around them, they do, have moments of, sadness and moments of happiness. And just to see that and see them enjoy it and just be so proud of what, their daughter is now doing, what's happening because of her. Listen, I'll advocate for that, and I'll go to bat with anybody who has anything otherwise to say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know several people who took part in it, as well as you, and all of the experiences that I have seen have been very positive and uplifting. And I think it's important that people we keep talking about this. We keep it at the forefront because it can easily be something that we just talk about and then goes away, and there's never any justice. So I'm really glad that took place. On the flip side, I don't know if you've been watching, but I certainly did. I watched both national conventions, the Democratic and the Republican. Last night, Trump spoke and made no mention of Jacob Blake or Breonna Taylor or George Floyd, but really went in hard when he talked about standing with police and law and order and all of that. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Did you see it, and what are your thoughts?
So I didn't. It was on or just wrapping up when I got here. I think it might have actually been finished. I'm trying to think. I can't remember what was on the screen, but I remember that something was on and my friend was like, I'm turning this off, because I felt just disrespected by even the way that he just like stood on the podium and like leaning to one side. Just everything about him is just so and I'm just like so embarrassed that I've never referred to him as my president. Like, y'all know I'm not rocking with that, but I just feel like just as a country, like we should be embarrassed. And people who still support him, like, bro, just like pretend like we don't, like, you don't exist. Like, it's just like, how can you perpetuate someone that's full of such hate, right? Mm-hmm. So with regard to supporting police over the victims of police, this is another example why the police need to be defunded, right? So this is absurd that so much money gets poured into police departments everywhere, that people are walking around saying Blue Lives Matter when blue lives is not even a thing. Like, I can't even fathom it. So when people are taking a stance to support blue lives, at this point, it's a direct stance against Black lives. So, I feel like they're not just killing us. I feel like it is an issue with the police department. And I feel like now, because people are saying that they support blue lives, it's turning Black Lives Matter into more of a political issue. And it frustrates me. So I think, and I think that even some people who, like, I don't even think they care about police like that. I feel like they're just doing it to go against the Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh, definitely.
That's frustrating.
I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, my father was a police officer, ended up with FDLE, has been a police officer my whole life. I've been around police officers my whole life, and I've never seen this type of support that is happening now for police officers, which makes me know that a lot of it, I mean, some people may be supporting because they truly feel that way, but a lot of it is just a direct, answer to Black Lives Matter and us raising questions about police brutality. And I just think that even if I know for a lot of people, defunding the police may be a stretch, you're not there yet, but I feel like how can you not want reform or accountability? Like, we want our teachers to be accountable. We want our doctors to be accountable. We're not anti-teachers or doctors. So why can't we say we want our police officers? accountable. I just
Right.
understand that.
Yeah. So if someone sees something like what happened to Jacob Blake and then says like, oh, but what did he do? Then I mean, just stop
Right.
saying stuff like all lives matter, because certain lives don't matter to you. Like there's no way you can say both things together, because one contradicts the other. So just stop it. Like I'd rather you be an overt racist than to hide behind little stuff like, well, police have a stressful job. No, and I'm gonna share one thing that I said in a conversation recently. My issue with this whole thing about like, police being, vulnerable, and they have to go home to their families and they're doing it because they're fear of this and their fear of that. No. One thing I don't hear people talk about is the fact that police, think about it for 1 second, right? So someone breaks into your house, you end up having to shoot and maybe even kill them. When the police get there, there's going to be some level of, you don't see me recording? There's going to be some level of, oh my gosh, I didn't want to kill him, but I was so scared. You're going to have some, no matter how you spin
Right.
it, there's going to be some level of like, I didn't want to do this, but I had to. What happens when a police officer kills often an unarmed black man? They're like, they don't render aid a lot of the time. When they do, it's kind of like a pause, and it's just kind of like, oh, what y'all gonna do with this thing? Like this, we got this body here. What we gonna do about this? There's no way that you could tell me that someone who actually feels like, oh my God, I was terrified, is gonna respond like that after killing someone or shooting them to where it could potentially have resulted in a murder. Luckily, Jacob Blake survived, and they didn't think that he was going to survive. So that's going to be a story to tell right there. But he lay in his hospital bed, paralyzed, handcuffed. So he's still being treated as a criminal. So I can't go into the specifics yet, because I don't think they've been discussed in the, like in the press or whatever with regard to what was going on. But I hope that when people hear the actual story, that they'll cut all that mess out, and then eventually you'll get to the point where they stop saying, well, what happened before? Listen, if you're scared for your life and your point is to try to stay alive, there's no reason why you need to be holding on to somebody with their back turned to you and you unload 7 to 8 bullets inside of them. Like, miss me with all of that.
Right.
And
right.
so it's I don't know, it's frustrating. And I kind of lost like the original question, so I'm sorry. Look how that is raining. Look at this. Look at
That's crazy. I can hear it. I can hear it in the background.
Yeah, so I keep trying to mute it in between because I know it's probably like not really the best sound quality. Sorry.
It sounds like rain. It's not bad.
Oh, so it's kind of calming then, huh? It's kind of calming.
It is. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I know as the daughter of a police officer, law enforcement, that they go out there and risk their lives, but never once have I thought to myself, I mean, that's a choice. I knew my dad loves his job, and that was his passion. He was happy to do it. And so never once was I like, fearful in a way that like I felt like he was afraid or that he felt he couldn't do his job. Like I look at him as fully capable of doing his job, and that, that he'll be successful in doing that, going out every day and being able to come home. So this narrative of like police are scared and like you need to, they go out there and risk their lives every day and we need to treat them with white gloves. And like, I just don't understand that narrative because it's a choice that somebody made. It's a career choice. And yes, it's dangerous, but just so is a firefighter's position is dangerous. I mean, the man who works at FP&L, it's dangerous, So if you make that choice as a career path, you should have all the tools and skills and the training to be able to navigate in that world,
Right.
So, our job is to provide an extra buffer or whatever it is that they want us to do.
I agree, and your perspective is very, very important because literally, like, if I hear one more person say Blue Lives Matter, I'm sorry, I've never seen a Smurf walking around. Like, I've never seen anybody that their skin color is blue. Because literally, you take off that suit and you are a regular person. So whatever your actual skin tone, race, whatever, that's what we talking about here. Okay, so your little shirt, the color blue, like it's not a thing. So just stop it. Like that was a choice.
Exactly.
Black people didn't decide like, oh, I'm just gonna decide to be black and I'm gonna be yelling Black Lives Matter. Like this was something that was chosen for us and that we embraced and that we're proud of.
Yeah, and
I mean, some of us aren't. Some Black people aren't, but I'm speaking for the ones that are advocating for it.
if blue lives is really even a real thing, I mean, it's a different conversation for a different day, but men of color within the police force are still treated very differently. And I know that firsthand also.
Right. So until there is more cops, good cops, speaking out about what's going on in our country, across the country right now, there's no such thing as a good cop and a bad cop to me. It's the entire police system to me. Because, videos go viral now, and those videos are so few and far between that if that was a thing, we would see more of it. And the people that are advocating for blue lives would say, no, these are just bad cops. Look at all these videos of all these other cops speaking out. Look at the police unions not supporting a cop that just murdered an unarmed person being, advocating for them to keep their job. You don't see the police union saying this is unacceptable. This is not the kind of behavior we tolerate as police.
Separating themselves.
They need to separate themselves from this type of behavior if it's just a few bad apples. Come on, man, the whole apple orchard is bad. So it's time to burn it down, and we're gonna build a whole nother type of crop. Period.
We saw right here in Palm Beach County how the police union stood by and is still standing by Officer Newman Raja, who murdered Corey Jones in cold blood. In cold blood, there was no even like a lot of these cops, they kind of have their little excuse, like, oh, I was arresting him and I was on duty, where in this case, there was no, it just was in cold blood. Like he was just driving along the road and decided, I want to murder a human being today. And the police union is still standing by him and supporting him. And they were upset about the Super Bowl ad talking about Corey Jones. And it's just like, why are you trying to align yourself as men who are supposed to be upholding the law with a murderer? You know, it's upsetting.
Right. And I mean, as we talked about in our recent episode about, COVID and teachers, like just no other profession. I use the word profession lightly because I just can't view police officers as a profession because they don't have the same, consequences or requirements as a normal profession. But, teachers don't have that same support. And I think that we need to create it, right? So they just band together, no questions asked. But I can't think, I'm a link, and I don't think that if I was out there just acting a fool, then my link sister's going to be like, oh, but we stand with Natasha. They're going to be like, girl, you better get yourself together. Like, what are you doing? So, what other organization or profession can we think of where they just, it don't matter? Other than police. That's because police is built on systematic racism. Like, they were designed to further exactly that. So that's why I'm always going to bring it back to defund and eventually abolish police altogether. We need to create something totally different, and we need to get more funding to communities so the communities can police themselves. I don't even know what word we're going to replace it with, but we just got to replace the whole word because it's just a hot mess, and it's just it breaks my heart because we're used to things being set up the way that they are, but we just have to call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? It's just unacceptable. So I think that, now with everything going on, marches like the March on Washington and, the things that we're working on for, like Breonna Taylor, like when I go to Kentucky for that, it all comes back to police brutality. It's not just a gun violence thing. It just brings it all back to police brutality because that's just what we're dealing with now. And I just wish that everyone as a whole would just open their eyes and see this as a us problem, This is just something that we all need to find our place in affecting change, right? Just whatever your thoughts are, you need to recognize that something is wrong and we need to figure out individually and together how we can really, really, really change this so that our children aren't dealing with the same things, aren't having the same conversations, so that they're marching for different reasons other than what we're still fighting for. We're still fighting for equal voting rights. Yeah, it's better. Of course it's better, but it's not. Listen.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Right now, it's like, if you were making, I don't know what's a reasonable number, but if you're making $50,000 20 years ago, that might have been good. But if you only go up to 51,000 20 years later, yeah, that's better. But is that,
right?
An extra $1,000, we know that the cost of living has gone up. Everything else has gone up. But one extra $1,000 over 20 years is better.
Yeah.
But Is it?
I just have to keep reminding myself. Sometimes I feel like with you see everything going on, then you get on social media, you see the device, the division, and you get a little frustrated and you feel like, oh, is it ever going to, like, are we going to ever get to a point where it's going to get better? And I had to remind myself of our ancestors and where we came from, and that they probably felt, like it's never going to change from, like, there are too many people who are ingrained in this and invested in this racism, and it's never going to change. And so I think we all have to just remember that it can and will change. We just have to stay the course and keep at it. Not get frustrated. Continue to do things like what you're doing, being on the ground. And if you can't do that, obviously, I have a whole little boy and a family. I can't be there on the ground, but do what you can from home. Sign petitions online. Keep awareness going. Post. Talk about it. Talk about it with your coworkers, your friends, whoever. And just do what you can where you are.
So 2 points to that. One, like Byron F. Wilson said on our episode with him, that it's different now. And since he said that, I've heard that so many times. And a lot of it is the unity and the diversity that we're seeing at these events. Like, literally, I see every race at whatever event. So regardless of what you see in the video, what might be right there, there's every race present. And I thought that was kind of normal because, I have friends of various race, various cultures, and they'd be down for it. But for our ancestors to say that is unique and that is what the difference is now, that keeps me optimistic. And I have to maintain some level of optimism. I'm just not the type of person that can continue to do the things that I'm doing, continue to spend the money and the time that I'm spending on these things if I just think like this all for nothing. So I am optimistic, and I do think that things can change. And then the other point, I'm hungry. I've been eating all day, so I'm trying to think. You had also said, dang, I forgot my other point.
Stay the course.
I remember. So you were saying that, about being on the front line, right? So I've had this conversation 100 times, probably. Everybody's front line ain't the same, right? And everybody's not a frontline person. Some people just are naturally more talented being in the background than to be in the forefront. So I stress to people and advocate and ask that people just recognize what are your talents, what is going to be your best contribution to the cause, right? So if you're the type of person that's a planner, then plan something. Get with somebody who is like a frontline person and plan something. If you're the type of person who can write really well, there's tons of bills and legislation that we need written to get, to propose. So there's so much that you can do. Shoot, some people literally say, what can I do to reach out or contribute or, help or whatever. And then I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I can't really do this. I don't want to do this. I can't really do that. And then they're like, can I just donate? Yeah, people need money to do this stuff. Like, people think that that's like a taboo thing that you don't want to discuss. Bro, this stuff costs money. Like, I'm not asking for money from me, but I always advocate for people to donate to Until Freedom because I've seen firsthand what they do. And, I mean, they just, listen, like, I could go on and on and on about that organization, and it frustrates me. It's not even like, oh my God, it breaks my heart. No, it pisses me off when people find negativity to say about things like that. When I see firsthand where the money goes, what they're doing, how they spend their time. And it's not just like spending a day or two here. Spent a substantial amount of time with them, and I've seen with my own eyes what they do. So if your thing is that, right now I need to focus on my family, I need to focus on my career, I need to focus on this, I can't, devote my time, or I'm not sure what my place is right now, and you want to donate, you want to contribute to it, then donate. I can tell you other organizations if you don't want to, donate to Until Freedom, or just, sponsor someone. So some of the protesters from Louisville came out here, and the protesters that are protesting every single day, so not like Until Freedom, I'm talking like local protesters that have been protesting for over 90 days straight, every single day, haven't missed a day. Yeah. So, they accepted some donations, and people were willing and just so, anxious to let me help you because they've seen their efforts and their energy, and they want to help them get to DC so they can be involved in this. And I love to see it. Breonna Taylor's family loved the fact that, their hometown stood up strong for them in DC. So there's so many ways that you can help. If there's someone that wants to get involved with activism and they're a student, sponsor a trip for them to come to a march. You know what I'm saying? Like, sponsor this type of stuff, and then that can be your contribution because we're building future leaders, right? So you got to, and it's not just, whatever you can do. It's about getting in where you fit in, right? So whatever your talent is, take a moment and just self-reflect and have a conversation with yourself. Like, what can I really do to contribute to this? One, it'll make you feel most proud because you know that you're contributing your talents to the cause. And then two, it's the most benefit for the cause versus you know, like, oh, I'm gonna get out there and build a house. I don't even really know how to use a hammer. So like, am I really,
Right.
so I mean, let's be real. So everybody's front line is a different front line. So find what's best for you and get on the front line. If you're a front line in the action kind of person, get in your action. If you're not, you're a background type of behind the scenes type person. Listen, the beat makers make the most money. So
That's true. That's true. And last point before we go, I want to talk about. I heard someone on the radio. I think it was 50,000 years ago talking about the Kentucky Derby happening soon and how we could. I mean, that's one of the biggest money makers in Kentucky, and how we could maybe make our voices even louder by protesting there, and even not just being there, but protesting the sponsors of that event and holding them accountable for sponsoring that event when there's been no justice for Breonna Taylor. Have you heard anything about something happening for the Kentucky Derby?
So that was actually a goal, to protest and to do just that. But so the Derby is happening, but there's no spectators. So it's all going to be virtual. Mm-hmm. So we actually went to like the stadium during the protest that we had on Tuesday, Good Trouble Tuesdays. And we went to where the stadium's going to be located. And and I mean, they could say it's COVID, but I think it has a lot to do with this too. Like, they know that people are going to shut it down. Just like I think Daniel Cameron got married early because he was like, these protesters ain't finna come mess up my little wedding day. Because we was finna do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say we, because I don't want to. I was finna come back and do that, okay? I was going to practice my wedding crasher skills, going to watch a wedding crashers on the plane. And okay, how we crash a wedding? Okay, step one, step two. And then next thing I know, I was like, damn, pictures of his wedding. So yeah, so those types of, events, and it's not even about like, it's about disrupting everyone's peace, okay? So people think like, oh, what is that going to do? It does more than you think, because no justice, no peace, that's a real thing. Like, when you give us justice, you will get your peace. Until then, like, let's wreck it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's turn it all up. Turn your music up as loud as it go. No peace, no sleep until we get justice.
And I think we can still kind of even hold some of the sponsors of the Kentucky Derby accountable for sponsoring the event and hit them there where it hurts. It always hurts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not, Tamika Mallory, for example, has 20 years experience doing this. She's heavy in the activism, and so she's been doing it from like a young adult. So questions like that, I defer to them. Like, how do you think like this will make an impact? Because what I don't want to do is encourage something that is not going to make a real impact. Because then it's like, okay, you just can't have people just run in every direction, every which way, if it's not for a real purpose and meaning. So I think I'll add to one of the comments. Like, I just want to get their input on that. And, my friend and the attorney for the Breonna Taylor family, Lanita, she'll probably have some input on that too, because she's local. She's born and raised in Louisville. So she'll know, like, how can we still make an impact on the Derby? Like, it's still happening virtually. But, after discussion with her, it's really not, it's just, a virtual thing, no spectators. It's not going to be the big hat, the huge event that, we thought it was going to be. And I'm sure a lot of the sponsors are like the bourbon companies. Like, this ain't going to hit them hard if people don't, Yeah, but we should talk about this more in our cancel culture episode.
Definitely.
I think that this could be a segue. So if we do that within the next week, because when is the Derby? It's in September, but it's coming up in a couple of weeks. So if we can do the cancel culture episode prior to the Derby, then we can kind of start it off with the same part of the discussion and lead into, because I do want to follow up on it. Like, I want to give like my input, but I want to be informed.
And we can get a full report of all that you've been doing while you're like everywhere right now. So I want to just applaud like the work that you're doing and helping. Like, even before this, you were going to Kentucky and helping to get the protesters out of out of jail when they were arrested, which is amazing because we need people that are going to be, like you said, working in the legal department or working in whatever area their strength is in. And so for you to be doing that, giving up your time and your expertise to do that is just amazing. It's like what we need.
So I appreciate that so much. And I want to say that the first time I went to Kentucky, I wanted to get arrested. Like, I'm just that kind of person. Like, I want to be, if that's the front line, I want to jump in the middle of it. Like, that's my personality. However, my friends and colleague, Lanita, was like, nah, girl, like, you can't get arrested. And it ended up being a blessing because they ended up charging them with felonies. The Louisville 87, the first people got arrested, like that was whatever. The felony's been dropped now. And the 65, they got arrested on Tuesday. They weren't charged with any felonies. It was unlawful assembly that they were charged with. And the reason why I say it was a blessing in disguise is in Florida, if you're arrested for a felony, you have to inform the bar. So I would have had to tell them, I've been arrested, been charged with a felony, here's whatever, and then they kind of monitor you. So, like you kind of want to fly under the radar when it comes to your bar license. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise. But even this time, I was kind of like, can I, like, half of me get arrested and then half of me stay outside? But to be honest, I haven't even had to get that involved with assisting. And I'm like, yo, give me some of these cases because like I feel the need to, if I'm going to stay out here, then I need to be involved. But when I tell you that Louisville is such a tight-knit community and city,
Really?
Bro, I'm talking people from, like the mayor's office and, lawyers from every which way are like, all right, what y'all need? Being able to call people and say, okay, what's the status? When are they getting out? Or whatever. And I mean, the first time I was able to be more involved. The second time it was more just support, like we set out in the jail, and waited for everyone to get out. So it's an amazing community, amazing. I wish we had the same type of thing in Florida, but wow. So that's kind of like a silver lining of tragic events like this happening because you're able to really see people come together.
Okay, cool. So we'll do it a little bit backwards. Are you celebrating anything this week? I mean, you feel like your whole last weekend this week to celebrate, but I'll let you say what you want to celebrate.
I guess I'll just celebrate being here, and I'll celebrate the movement that we are making with Breonna Taylor's case. Slow movement is still movement, and I want to keep people encouraged and optimistic. And I mean, really, that's all I can celebrate because I feel like everything else is so raggedy right now. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to celebrate. So on September 30th, my husband and I founded a company called Let's Talk. We have our annual conference every year. And this year we just got our keynote speaker, which is we have a couple keynote, but the one that I'm really excited about is the CEO of Honey Pot. And if you're not familiar with her, she was featured in a Target ad. She's a young entrepreneur has one of the fastest growing companies, and of course a lot of parents do for her when her commercial aired to Target. And he's been everywhere now. And,
I love him.
Many Daisy Corral videos, so I'm so excited to have her be a part of it.
That's awesome. I want a swag bag and some samples, child.
Exactly. But yeah, so this is one of our shorter episodes. We still went a long time every time we talk.
Yeah. And I just got a text that they ordered their food. I'm about to go because y'all
Natasha love to eat. Let's let her go eat. And then we'll be back. As we said, we'll be talking about cancel culture versus accountability, which you won't want to miss that episode. If you have questions or you have questions that come up, you can still email us at 0400podcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
And
all
that's
right.
it. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.